Okay, we're picking back up in the Portable Jung editor's introduction, getting ready to roam at will through the collected works, by first understanding what Joseph Campbell means when he's talking about Jung and his lived experience. So, picking back up, this is 0.10 in our series. It is in point to remark that James Joyce, during those years, was also in Zurich composing Ulysses. Lenin, too, was there incubating world revolution. Hugo Ball, Richard Husenbach, Hans Arp, and Tristan Tzara, likewise inventing Dada as a protest against rationalized organization, while in Germany Thomas Mann was at work on the materials of the Magic Mountain, and Oswald Spengler was revising and augmenting his prophetic decline of the West. The fruit of Jung's thinking appeared in 1921 in the monumental tome, now volume 6 of the collected works. Hell yeah! This is what we're here for, people. The psychology of individuation, or psychological types. In order to understand psychological types, we have to make our way through the Portable Jung and a few excerpts from the collected works in order to understand what Jung is getting at when he's talking about psyche. And to think about how Jung thinks about the world. What precepts about our current level of civilization goes into how we reconcile and regard our lived experiences in relation to modern man. So continuing, talking about volume 6, this was a work of more than 700 pages. The first 470 dealing with an astounding range of philosophical speculations. From India, China, and Japan, classical antiquity, Gnosticism, and the early fathers, the Middle Ages, the Reformation, Renaissance, Baroque, and Enlightenment, Kant, Goethe, Schiller, Hegel, Schopenhauer, Wagner, Nietzsche, and assorted moderns, all concerned with the singular theme of psychological types. In the last 240 pages, Jung's own formulation appears. In the present volume, Selection 8, along with the glossary of basic... In the present volume, Selection 8, along with a glossary of basic Jungian terms, and a conclusion discussing the relevance of a recognition of psychological differences to an appreciation of the relativity of so-called truths and facts to the organs of their perceivers. Jung assigns the leading part of the differentiation of types to what he terms the 4 functions of consciousness. Okay, now I'm like, should this be a different video? No. Okay, so let's double back. Pause. Okay, so we're talking about the editor's introduction for the Portable Jung. And while we're diving into the part of the scholar period, master period, the scholar physician master period 1912 to 1946, talking about the fruit of Jung's thinking, appeared in 1921 in the monumental tome, Volume 6, Psychological Types, or the Psychology of Individuation. I prefer the original translation by Helton Goodwin Baines because the Baines translation is better than the R.F.C. Hall translation. And I can't wait now that there's been a critical edition of the collected works being commissioned to give people a real ability to sort through his work, specifically Carl Jung's. Okay, so this is talking about what the tome was about. Volume 6, The Psychology of Individuation, psychological, philosophical speculations, all concerned with the single theme of psychological types. And in the last 240 pages, Jung's own formulation appears in the present volume, Selection 8, along with a glossary of basic Jungian terms and conclusion discussing the relevance of a recognition of psychological differences to an appreciation of the relativity of so-called truths and facts to their organ of their perceivers. So this is important. Discussing the relevance of a recognition of psychological difference. This is really important. The discussion of the relevance of a recognition of psychological differences to an appreciation of the relativity of so-called truths and facts to the organs of their perceivers. The relevance of a recognition of psychological difference. So, what is the relevance of a recognition of psychological differences? What is the relevance of a recognition of psychological differences? What is a recognition of psychological differences? Discussing the relevance of a recognition of psychological differences. Deep. To an appreciation of the relativity of so-called truths and facts to the organs of their perceivers, saying it's not the thing in and of itself, it's based on how it's cognized through the lens of intersubjectivity, through the lens of their perceivers, through the lens of the psychological functions that an individual is using in their life as a reflection of their identity, as a reflection of who they are. The editor writes, Jung assigns the leading part of the differentiation of types. Jung assigns the leading part in the differentiation of types. So, the leading part in the differentiation of types. What he terms the four functions of consciousness. Noticing that whereas one person may favor thought as a guide to judgment, another will follow feeling. And whereas one will tend to experience both the world and his friends through impressions made directly to his senses, another will be given rather to intuiting potentialities, hidden relationships, intentions, and possible sources. So we're gonna do purple, pink, or fuchsia, Sensation and intuition are two functions, according to this view, by which facts and the fact world are apprehended. Intuition are, excuse me. Sensation and intuition are the two functions, according to this view, by which facts and the fact world are apprehended. What does this mean? Sensation and intuition are the two functions, perception functions, irrational functions, according to this view, by which facts and the... So why are the information animals? Why are the perception functions, why are the observer functions the functions which facts and the fact world are apprehended? Feeling and thinking, those of judging and evaluation. But as Jung observes and shows, and here is the crux of his argument, only one of these four functions takes the lead in governance of a person's life. And it is seconded normally by the only one, not by... Okay, so only one of these four functions takes the lead in the governance of a person's life. Can we believe that? Do we think that that's true? What goes into that? And it is seconded by not only one, by only one from the other duad. For example, thinking supported by sensation or sensation supported by thinking, both of which combinations characteristic of modern Western man leave feeling and intuition disregarded, undeveloped, or even repressed, and consequently in the unconscious susceptible to activation and outburst as autonomous complexes, either in the way of demoniacal seizures or more mildly uncontrollable moods. So this is the crux of the argument. This is the crux of the position. Volume 6 grounded Jung's work into an origin quaternity, where he framed out the four functions of consciousness: thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. Whereas one person may favor thought as a guide to judgment, another will follow feeling. And whereas one will tend to experience both the world and his friends through impressions made directly on his senses, another will be given rather to intuiting possibilities, hidden relationships, intentions, and possible sources. Sensation and intuition are the two functions, according to this view, by which facts in the fact world are apprehended. Feeling and thinking those of judging and evaluating. And as Jung observes and shows, and here's the crux of his argument, only one of these four functions takes the lead in the governance of a person's life. And it is seconded by only one, not both, from the other duad. When we come back, we'll pick it up right where we left off and continue the editor's introduction for the Portable Jung.